Hi everyone, my name is Maddie Bucco. I'm a junior on the women's track and field team here at Holy Cross.
My name is Emily Sullivan, and I am also a junior on the swim and dive team.
So it's been about a month now since we've been home, and we've all started online learning with Zoom or Google Classroom. And now that our new quote-unquote school has started back up, issues may have arisen, struggles might be happening, questions are coming up, and SAC wanted to provide some insight and some help for not just Holy Cross students, but for everyone adjusting to this new normal.
Today with us, we have Trevor, Cote, a staff clinician at the Counseling Center and coordinator of the Student Athlete Mental Health and Programming. He works in collaboration with Sports Med to provide us the best well-being and performance of HC student athletes. Today, he is here to answer a few questions for us. Trevor, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey everyone, glad that you're able to listen in. I'm really excited to do this. This has been something that Maddie and Emily have spent a lot of time working on to be able to provide some connection. So that's all I'll say.
So before we get into the real questions that we want to ask you, we thought that a little round of hot seat would break the ice.
Okay.
We're going to have a minute on the clock and get it started.
All right, I have a 1 minute timer pulled up and we are starting now.
Great.
What's your favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving.
Least favorite holiday?
Valentine's Day.
Are you a dog or a cat person?
Dog.
Are you married?
I am.
Do you have kids?
2 kids.
Do you pee in the pool?
I do. Depends on the day or age.
Do you have any siblings?
I have 2 siblings, one older, one younger.
Do you believe in aliens?
I don't.
Would you rather go skydiving or scuba diving?
Scuba diving.
How many rolls of toilet paper do you have in your house right now?
I would say probably 12.
What was your favorite movie growing up?
Dumb and Dumber and Good Will Hunting.
What's your favorite movie now?
Dumb and Dumber and Good Will Hunting.
Did you ever play sports?
I did. I played in high school, soccer, basketball, baseball, and tennis, and then in college, just soccer.
Where are you from?
I'm from Rhode Island.
Do you have a celebrity crush?
Either Eva Mendes.
Me too.
Yeah, I'd say Eva Mendes would be up there.
Thank you for playing.
Yeah, that was fun.
So now we're going to get into the nitty gritty. As we said, Trevor is a mental health expert. So we just wanted to ask you some questions that we think people might be asking now that we've transitioned to distance learning. What would you say to students who are looking to maintain the same level of motivation that they had at school while being home?
Yeah, I think this is a really important question. And before I get into strategies and recommendations, I just wanted to share that if you're right now experiencing kind of some of the ebbs and flows of experiencing some really high highs and feeling really productive for a couple days, and then all of a sudden it kind of crashes and you kind of start to feel a little apathetic, decreased energy and motivation. That's kind of the new norm. I feel like if you're feeling that way, you're fitting with most of society and you're not alone. So during these highs and lows and these ebbs and flows of motivation and energy, it's important to give yourself some flexibility and be kind to yourself in this. And that if this is not something that you're typically see as a day-to-day life experience for you, it's not like something's wrong with you right now. It's just that it's a byproduct of the context and the environment that we're living in. And what I mean by that is we're not as physically active. And I'm not talking about just exercise. I'm talking about like when we wake up and usually you're going to Kimball, like that takes a lot of walking to get down there. Or if it's walking to classes, so our body's not in as much motion as we're typically in, so which affects mood and energy and motivation. And the second is that we're really hardwired as social animals to connect. And under the notion of connection is prevention, we aren't able to gain into that face-to-face in person due to the constraints, which again has a direct impact on energy, motivation, and well-being. And research shows that individuals with stronger connection and growth fostering relationships experience high levels of satisfaction, happier, increased motivation, stronger immune system. So without those two things, there's a good reason why we have these ebbs and flows.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so I'll just share a couple suggestions. So I'm not going to go to the more common ones that we may hear, and I think those are equally as important. So the ones that I'm going to talk about is, so within schedule routine, I think there is a really importance in balancing the routine and schedule that you have. And what I mean by that is making sure that you have this balanced approach between having activities that you do just for pleasure, whether it be reading a book, cooking, relaxing bath or shower, whatever it may be that you do just for the sake of pleasure. It's important to have scheduled in 3 or 4 of those throughout your day. And the next would be achievement. So activities that give you a sense of accomplishment. Those are extremely important to make yourself feel like you are doing something productive that is in line with the short-term and long-term goals, whether it be homework, studying for for an exam that you're going to have next week, physical exercise, mental skills, acts of gratitude, whatever it may be that gives you a sense of accomplishment. And the last within that balance is connection. So really pencil into your schedule times where you're going to connect with others, not just in your household, but from a virtual standpoint, whether it be study groups or daily FaceTimes, or join local communities and their ways in which they're connecting through interweb. So all of those aspects are really important. Those three things are really important to maintain motivation. Then two last things that I'll share. It's important to celebrate small victories now more than ever. So it's important to reward yourself after maybe it's just like you finished a paper that you didn't think you were going to get done in the day, or you accomplished all your goals at the end of the day. Whatever it is, celebrate those small victories, because then that is how we build momentum, and it's kind of like a snowball effect. And the last is, I really strongly encourage as student athletes to dip into this reservoir of past examples of resiliency. There's abundance of examples for student athletes in this, whether it be from you're down a championship game and you and your team work yourself out of it, or you're overcoming from a significant injury and you get back to maintain or even better shape than you were before, or just the mere task of balancing life as a student athlete. So all these examples are really rich with examples of how you were able to make it through really difficult times. And so when you think about those, it's important to ask, what did you do then? Who did you reach out to? What are some of your strengths that you leaned on that were so important in overcoming those adversities? So that's kind of how I look at in a view to increase motivation during this time.
Actually really funny that you said 3 to 4 things a day, because I'm happy if I have 3 to 4 things that provide me enjoyment a week. So it's interesting to hear that it is important to do the things that you enjoy and to find the joy in this, and to even the mini senses of accomplishment. My mom and I, every day we try and work out together for about a half hour, always around 4:00, so that I have some sort of schedule in my day. But at the end of it, we've recently introduced trying to do a headstand every day.
Ooh.
And that is it's so dumb, and it's much harder than you would expect. Every day we get a little closer, we get a little happier, and we go straight into dinner, being excited to tell my dad about how much further up the headstand we got to go. And so definitely having those little bits of joy and productivity and accomplishment really definitely do help me within my day.
Great. I hope you don't hurt yourself in the middle of that. Coach would be a little upset.
Definitely have fallen a few times. For Easter, I got a skateboard, fell off of that. It was not good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Emily was saying. I think culturally as college students, we're so used to the go, 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 or just Americans in general. So I think as many negatives as there are to being forced to stay home, being forced to social distance, I think it's a good opportunity, I guess, to take some time to slow down and take the opportunity to do those 3 or 4 things a day that really make you happy. Because like we said, we've been so used to just doing 3 or 4 a week. So I think you have to make, just like student athletes always do, you have to make the best out of a bad situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Happen to that resiliency. So I really like that. Thank you.
You mentioned resiliency and talked about how in our day-to-day life as student athletes, we incorporate that. Now that we're so removed, do you have any suggestions on how to embody resiliency when having sports as an outlet isn't there for us?
Yeah, I'll try to make this kind of quick and concise because there's so much that we could add when we talk about resiliency. So if I don't cover all of it, I apologize. So the first thing that comes to mind for me when I think about resiliency is that resilience is the person's ability to really recognize when their back's against the wall or they're close to hitting a rock bottom, and then they fight like hell to work through it. And when I speak about working through it, that includes accessing and reaching out for help when needed. So for me, the most resilient individuals are those that know when it's time to show some of that vulnerability, step outside their comfort zone, and really be able to identify some of those trusted people in their life and really work with that person or those people to help overcome that obstacle. And so that's why it's so important that people always talk about finding those trusted people in your life, because you're going to need them along your journey if you're really wanting to get to those elements of heightened success that I know all or most of the students at Holy Cross want to get to. And if you're lucky to have enough of those trusted people in your life, it's certainly not a crutch to utilize them. I think of it as those people that are resilient in that way. They see it as a useful and a powerful tool to achieve success in the midst of those multiple stressors or just one acute stressor that we're currently experiencing now. That's one that I think about, that from a student athlete's perspective, the messaging is always from, whether it be growing up with coaches, parents, teammates, just do it yourself, suck it up, or just kind of be tougher about it and you'll get through it. Well, I think there's times for that. I also think resiliency is knowing that I'm reaching a limit and it'd be good to get someone else to help me with this. That's one that I find to be underutilized when I think of resiliency. And so now here, as we're in kind of this quarantine, it's really important to reach out for those people that you want to help you with this through this certain situation. So that's one. Two is, under what we just talked about, is this opportunity. So it's easy to focus on what we're losing or what we don't have during this time. Now more than ever, it may be important to focus on what we have and what we're better now because of the situation. And that's that silver lining that kind of finds itself in resiliency. When everything looks doom and gloom, what good can come from this? And so for Emily, it's learning how to do a headstand. It seems small and simple, but it helps getting out of the muck of and the serious danger that we are in. But if we're just stuck in there, it doesn't give us that level of inspiration, motivation to do our daily tasks. Now more than ever, let's try to look at what opportunities does this present with. And I've come up with a couple that I've found to be helpful. One is, maybe this is a time to take up a hobby that you've always wanted to do. Or, because everyone's on their computers, maybe this could increase your networking skills, where you can reach out and connect to people because everyone's around their computer. And if you never really thought you had time to do it, maybe that's a time that this is giving you. Or maybe even becoming closer with people in your house, whether it be siblings or parents. Those are things that this opportunity is presenting us with. Also, another one that's common for a lot of people, saying, I know a lot more things that I'm appreciative and grateful for. So all those are really, really important when I think of resiliency. And just one last thing in a quick manner, when I think of resiliency for individuals that have that, it's not the first thought that gets them tripped up or into like kind of an anxious state. When the first thought comes up, which we don't have control over, that may get us into trouble if we start to believe in that's who I am. So resilient people are able to notice, be non-judgmental to that first thought, and respond with a second or third thought that gives them a level of inspiration, that gives them a sense of pride that they are able to work through this initial thought and that it's not true, and that they lean on things that are true, or that they have strengths to overcome that first thought. So that's another example that I think about. So a lot of people get stuck on the first thought, thinking that has to be true if they're thinking about it. But resilient people recognize, no, that's not true. Our mind's just this thought-producing factory. So what's so important is, how am I going to respond to that first thought that's going to get me through?
This discussion really got me thinking of a quote that I've really loved throughout my life. If you can't get out of it, get into it. And it's so easy to just be be sad about the situation. And obviously you should validate your feelings and allow yourself to feel those feelings. And I definitely spent the first week or so home, first 2 weeks, being sad about the semester being over. I didn't get a track season, all of that stuff. And it's important to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
But after the 2 weeks or so, I was kind of sick of being sad. And I was like, well, if I can't get out of the situation, which nobody can, not one of us can cure this pandemic right now, I might as well get into it. And like you said, finding those things, finding the ways to get into it.
Yeah, that's great. And you're right. I think it's important that validating the hardship that is of losing a season,
mm-hmm.
and not hiding from that. It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah. I really like that quote, and I think it goes along well with what Trevor was saying of like picking up new hobbies and discovering what you normally don't have time to do. I have never been into journaling, and a lot of my teammates have now started like Zoom journaling sessions, and one of the girls this entire time wasn't journaling and was writing us all like handwritten letters, and I thought that was such a unique way to like stay connected, take time, and like be off your phone, because we're so close. We're always so used to like being on our computers, especially during now, and being able to like reach out and keep the connections going and getting into the time that we now have. So thank you, Maddie, for sharing that.
Yeah.
So Trevor, you touched upon support systems, and when I hear that, I automatically think family and friends. How has your family adjusted to being home together every day? Yeah.
I've set myself up. So we have It's taken us a little bit of time to work through it. I would say for the first 2 weeks, we were, what I would like to say is just in the midst of chaos and just trying to survive being in the house together. And now it's getting to a little bit more of a kind of controlled chaos where my wife and I have every Sunday or Monday morning, we just map out our entire day and who's going to take the kids and who's going to work. And so that's been something that's been a very big help for us. We've included in that, when are you just going to have your own me time away from the family? And that's been something that's been essential for us to feel like it's not just kind of Groundhog's Day for us, because our kids are rambunctious. They're 2 and 4. So it's been the hardest part actually has been trying to keep them occupied, entertained, and stimulated rather than just turning the TV on. So that's how it's been for us. We've definitely found some creative ways to manage their energy. So that's one. And then the two is we've just kind of accepted that this is really hard. And so we've just tried to be flexible and reduce our kind of perfectionism that my wife and I both have, and just know we're not going to be able to do as good of work or all the things that we've wanted to do that we had for this semester.
When you were talking to us before this, you mentioned something about a bouncy castle. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So this was like maybe day 3 or 4 into our quarantine. The kids were just, and it was really cold still, and the kids were just, let's just say, were being lovingly annoying. And my wife just like, how do we get energy out of these kids without getting them outside and exposing them to things? And so she's brilliant and came up with, we should just get them a bouncy house. So we just were fortunate to have our basement finished maybe like a month prior to this. And we have space to fit like a 10 foot by 10 foot bouncy house. I'm actually just looking at it right now. And it's been amazing. My 2-year-old got a black eye the first 2 minutes of us using it, but otherwise kids have slept great ever since.
That's great. It's a great strategy.
Highly recommend it for any parent out there. Get a bouncy house.
Not even parents, for ourselves maybe.
Yeah.
I haven't jumped on it yet because I'm afraid of breaking it, but I really want to.
That's fair. Maybe when this is all over, your celebration can be jumping on the bouncy castle. So one thing that really comes to mind when I think of Holy Cross is the values and the mission that the Jesuit institution portrays. How would you suggest students stay involved? Because a lot of us are gratified through the values and mission. So how do you suggest students to stay involved and still feel that sense of community?
Oh, that is such a good question. For me, it's been the thing that I've struggled with the most. You know, I think this is a lot of the students at Holy Cross is they get there's a level of satisfaction, pleasure by doing good for others. You know, behind that is, you know, when we care for others, it brings just as much to the caregiver as it does the receiver. So I have struggled with finding how to do that. I loved learning from the social media on, you know, there's been a couple things on people providing, it's different types of, whether it be toilet paper, hand sanitizer to their postal service or UPS, anything kind of delivery service. I loved those aspects. So that's a way of giving back. I think there's a way in which all these local organizations are asking for help, not just from financial standpoint, but if you're creative with marketing or creative with web design, I think it'd be a fantastic thing now to reach out to these companies that they're not going to probably pay you anything, but it's more so they need these aspects. So I think that's a huge piece of it. I've heard a couple in which there is certain groups that have started, not just, I mean, this podcast is something that's created because of our quarantine, but I know one of you mentioned the getting together, and I think it was the team is writing notes or journaling to each other. I think there are other study groups and reading groups that are out there that help us connect. And those are some of the thoughts that I have, but I still struggle with it greatly on how to do that. If you all have learned or found what helps you, I'd love to hear that.
For me personally, it was like this past Easter. It's always like a big family affair, and like we have 100 people at my house. So coming into Easter was like not the most exciting. Something that was actually my mom's idea was that we went around and we put like Easter eggs on everybody's property who had kids. Then like we were like, oh, okay, like at 11:30 you were able to go out and all the kids were able to search for the Easter eggs on their property, so that every family got to stay within their own little section, and social distancing was still upheld, but it was nice to like see everybody outside on the block and in their homes and the kids running around. And that was something that I honestly, when my mom first suggested it, I was like, you're crazy. But then I loved that we did it. Like it made me so happy for the rest of the day.
I definitely just say if you're feeling the need to like reach out to other people. Obviously, everyone's going to be missing each other, and I'm sure that person is thinking about you just as much as you're thinking about them. So reach out, call somebody, FaceTime. We could have been going through this pandemic in the age of no internet. So I guess that's something to be grateful for. We do have these things like FaceTime. We have all this great technology that can keep us connected for the time being until we can connect back in person. And I know nationally things you can do, donate blood if you can.
Oh,
if
yes.
you have to donate blood. I know there's been a huge deficit. Donate canned food if you can, if you're able. Something my family's been doing also is we've been doing takeout Fridays to a lot of the local restaurants. So every Friday we've been doing takeout. So if that's within your family's means, by all means do it. Support your local businesses. They're hurting just as much as everybody else. So
that's interesting. Both of you brought that up because I've just got, so donating blood, that's been on my list of things to do. So I need to do that. Maybe this was good at kicking myself in the butt to do it. But so two things that came to mind for me is like, there's an aspect that we could bring food to others, just lay it on their doorstep. For my parents, cooking something that's really hard to do right now. So my wife and I, we baked banana bread and brought them some like just groceries and it's left on the doorstep. We couldn't really stay and hang out with them. And that was an aspect of like, yeah, we sacrificed our time, but to help others, and it made us feel really good. So I think that would be awesome. Another thing that I wanted to share is maybe this is a time where you could write a nice unprompted note to someone and how much you appreciate them being in your life. That out of nowhere makes people feel just really touched and cared for and respected.
Absolutely. Those are amazing ideas. That is very much Holy Cross-esque, and I appreciate that. I'm definitely going to write those down for myself to do.
So we probably have time for about one more question. I know that a lot of people have been dealing with a lot of anxiety lately. We're living in the age of anxiety, and with 24-hour newscasts, being home, feeling isolated, what are some of your suggestions for coping with all of this right now?
So I think just from an anxiety standpoint, just know that anxiety lives when we're stuck in the past or we're worried about the future. And it doesn't really live in the present moment. So as much as that you can do for yourself to engage in thoughts that keep you grounded in the present moment, the less anxiety that you're going to feel. From that standpoint, one, try to limit the immediate exposure that you do have, whether it be from social media or just TV on. Another thing that I recently learned is, we're in a prolonged state or heightened state of worry and stress. And rather than waiting at the end of the day to calm down or to really kind of regulate all of those emotions and feel relaxed, rather than doing that all at once, research is starting to show that it's better to take 2 to 5 minute breaks every hour and engage in one of those pleasure activities or that engages that relaxation response, rather than, again, it accumulating to the very end of the night and then you have to do all the relaxation at the end of the night, which we know probably won't be as effective. So if you can break up those engaging in those pleasure or relaxation techniques about 2 to 5 minutes every hour, you'll be in way better shape to reduce and regulate some of that anxiety. And so when I talk about relaxation responses, I'm talking about diaphragmatic breathing, moments of informal or formal mindfulness, soothing or calming imagery, or kind of a relaxing moving of yoga or stretching, or progressive muscle relaxation. Whatever it's going to be for you, if you can do that every hour, you're going to see yourself be able to feel a lot calmer by the end of the day and not need as much relaxation or de-stressing. The other thing I'll share about is this idea of controlling the controllables. So around anxiety, we have to really focus in on what do I have control over and can I engage in that task right now? And so the premise is that we're feeling anxious, trapped, or confused. So it's best is to think, worry, and take action to what you have control over. So it's a kind of a decision-making flow chart that simplifies worries and tries to move you from story thinking, which is getting caught up in that negative cycle that we love to get into, or our mind loves to get into, and move into kind of action thinking. And so let me just give you a quick little example of what that would be. When you start to experience a lot of different worries just based on this uncertainty that we're in, or something happened in your day, it's good to first ask the question, what are you worrying about right now? And name those different worries. And so then choose one out of those and say, is this a problem that I can do something about right now? And if it's not, then you have to learn to practice to let that go and focus on something else that's important to do right now. But if it is a worry that you have control over and you can do, then make a list of the options or the actions that you can take. And then from that list, choose one that you can do right now, or choose several and make a plan of when you're going to take those steps and then follow those steps. So that is a quick little decision tree that you could recognize from your worry Is this a worry that I have control over? And then what actions can I take now that I have control over that are going to help mitigate or reduce the anxiety? So that's kind of some of the things that I like to work on to manage or reduce anxiety.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm the type of person that definitely experiences anxious thoughts. I think everyone does to some
Oh,
degree.
yes.
My brain goes 10,000 miles an hour. And so something that really helps me, like you said, is kind of doing a brain dump. That's like the term for it. And I use the notes app on my phone. So if I feel like I can't focus on this assignment right now, like I'm reading what I'm supposed to be reading, but nothing's going through, I think about, okay, what are all of these external thoughts that are going on right now? And I put them in the notes app on my phone, and it really does help get rid of them for the moment. So yeah, I think trying to put some control over the uncontrollable definitely helps, and just taking a step back and realizing that you don't have to solve all of the problems at once.
No.
And I think that, as Maddie said, like being able to just express all of the feelings out is really good. Like I personally just call up one of my friends, and then that brought me back to thinking of the resiliency that we were talking about before, of relying on the people. And I just vent it out, and then we hang up. But then on top of that, one of the things I was thinking about was when we were talking about limiting the news, one of the people from the office just started a good news network. And it's 15 minutes every day of good things going on in the world. So if anybody needs some positivity, that's also been something I've really appreciated.
It's great.
Emily, do you want to wrap us up?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Trevor, so much for coming out here and talking to us and giving us some amazing insight. And for everybody tuning in, we just want to ask to give us feedback. Anybody you would want to see in the future, any questions, anything you want to hear, that'd be very appreciated.
As most of you already know, the pass-fail applications are open for everyone. You can generally take up to 2 of your 4 classes pass-fail now that we've moved to online courses. So definitely get those in if you are thinking about doing pass-fail. On a brighter note, the 2020 fall courses are out for next semester, so definitely take a look at those. It's definitely something I look forward to before every semester, especially now more than ever. So like Emily said, please be giving us any feedback, anybody you want to see. We're going to start an email so that you guys can all email us here at the podcast.
I would love to say thank you so much for this invitation and opportunity to speak with you all in this platform. I really appreciate the creativity and the work that you've put into creating this. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, Trevor, one last thing. You are running an injury support group.
Yeah, thanks for that reminder. So sports medicine and I are recognizing that doing remote physical therapy and recovery is probably harder than most things because you don't have the equipment and that community and connection. So what we wanted to establish that we are offering is every Tuesday, 4 to 5 p.m., we're doing a Zoom invite to all Holy Cross student athletes that are experiencing either short or long-term injury and just want to use that space to either share what's working or what is not working for them, or even just to kind of help out other teammates or athletes that may be experiencing some of the difficulties and obstacles of doing remote treatment or recovery. And so Zoom invitations will be sent out through either Aaron or someone from Sports Med.
Thank you for that. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be looking forward to that. Maddie, do you want to tell us on who might be here for next week?
Yes. So once again, thank you for joining us. Our next episode, we've invited 3 upperclassmen on one of our spring men's sports teams. So names to follow. You guys will all have to tune in to the next episode.
Thank you, Trevor, and thank you for everybody listening.
Have a good day, everyone.